Welcome to the Chief Endurance Officer Podcast. I'm your host, Greg McDonough. Each week, we hear real time stories from athletes and CEOs on how to maximize performance through an endurance mindset. Let's get started. Well, welcome to the Chief Endurance Officer Podcast. I'm your host, Greg McDonough. I am thrilled for our guest today. He is a competitive athlete, a coach, business leader, a mentor, retired police officer. So thank you for your service, and has contributed content to major outlets like the New York Times. He is a co-author of the USA Triathlon's Level 1 Coaching Manual. He's also a 4-time USA age group coach and has represented the U.S. at the ITU World Championships around the globe. He is the owner of Final K Sports Services and the creator of the Minnesota Hockey Lockers. Please welcome Kris Swarthout. Kris,
Hey,
welcome to the show.
thank you very much. Great to be here, Greg. When you say it out loud, it makes me sound like I've done a whole bunch.
Well, quick, tell your wife. Did I butcher your last name pretty good, or did I get it kind of close?
You did it good. It's Swarthout, which is like, it's German. So if you say it like you're angry, you know you said it right.
That's brilliant. Well, let's dig into it, Kris. I love talking about the endurance mindset. So how has your endurance mindset impacted your life unexpectedly?
That's a great question. I'm going to dig back a couple of years to something that really kind of popped into my head. Back when I was a police officer, I was working an afternoon cover shift in the city of Brooklyn Park. It's a large suburb of Minneapolis. Um, and we got a call of a drug deal going on in a park on the east side of the city. My partner and I were called to it. He was the first one to roll up. And as I pulled up, this truck jetted and took off from the scene. And so began this chase. And so I was a primary on it. It started on side streets and then immediately went onto this busy freeway. Truck missed a red light, T-boned another vehicle that was going northbound. Vehicle rolled, saw the driver get ejected out of the vehicle as I was in pursuit of the suspect. My partner stopped. Um, Actually ended up saving that guy's life. I put him in for a life-saving award and a bunch of other stuff, and very well needed. Chase ended up going into another city across the river almost immediately, and then it kept going it was about a 15-minute chase. And I remember inside that chase, because the city that we went into had a policy that they would not render mutual aid to an outside initiated pursuit. And that means they're not going to get involved. They're going to wait till this guy goes to ground and then they'll start chasing him, but they're not going to get into chasing vehicles. So I was waiting for my city to come across the bridge. I was waiting for state patrol to make it up from the north side of the interstate, and it was just me with this guy. And I knew at some point in time we were going to bail and we were going to end up on a foot chase. And I kept telling myself, this is essentially just the bike. You're going to have to run after this. And I remember telling myself that and calming myself down, keeping my heart rate lower and just being calm because I knew there was another thing after this. And I
Mm.
remember very vividly saying, it's just like the bike, you're going to have to run. So this is just part of it. And that was like one of those times when training really helped because I stayed in control, kept heart rate down, and it really did play into how my mind worked in a very dynamically adrenaline driven moment, and not moment, like couple minutes. And it really has stuck out as one of those points in time that I think triathlon training, you know, bled over, and it really kind of allowed me to do the things I needed to do correctly.
That's a first. So again, thank you for your years of service. Did it turn into a foot chase? Did it actually
No,
play
oh, it's
out that
great. So
way?
that's another great story. Okay, so we went into another neighborhood and it started going crossways. So we're in another city. My officers don't really know the layout, so I'm going northwest, east, on the city streets. I'm chasing a Chevy pickup. It's a 3/4 ton Chevy pickup, male driver, female passenger, goes into a cul-de-sac. And so he goes in and he's turning around and he's going to come out. And we just basically nose to nose. and he veers the last second. I hit him and go into what we call a pit maneuver, or a pursuit intervention tactic maneuver, where you're contacting the front quarter panel of your vehicle with the rear quarter panel of theirs. And we ended up going in this circle. Inside, I was pushing them, and we're in this like dance of vehicles in the cul-de-sac. There's people in their houses watching. I've actually got it on video. It's pretty cool. And we ended up going like, you could hear it in my voice, like there was going to be contact, and then you hear it, and we are doing this dance, and then all this like smoke and smoke. But then my push bumper got caught into his bumper, and I could feel that I was starting to be dragged. And so I was trying to remove myself from that, so I wasn't connected, so he wasn't pulling me. And as I did, I released and I hit a tree, and I went right up into a tree. And then he kept on going. Pursuit continued for a while until a couple of my partners ended up. One of them jumped a median and took him head on, nose to nose, and rolled the vehicle. And um, guy was had a little bit of cocaine, some booze on board. The guy he hit ended up living. Didn't remember any of it, and some people went to jail for a little while, and we all walked away.
So relating back to the endurance mindset, and when you were telling yourself, "Hey, this is just the bike, and there's going to be another push." I was expecting, like, you both got out of the car and you actually ran, but you were more talking about just mentally that, hey, there's going to be an event, another series, another sporting, another, as you point out, the run portion of this exercise is still in front of me.
Yeah,
Let's stay calm, manage my heart rate, and kind of work through your training, really.
100%. And that I would say that probably my Ironman training had probably surfaced more, because especially in Ironman racing, a lot of things I tell athletes is, you don't go 100% of the bike, because if you do, you end up blowing everything on the run. You have to stay controlled, and pacing is so vital to go through the entire event. And so I knew you have to keep some matches burning, because you can burn all of your energy, all of your adrenaline, all of your anxiety on this pursuit. And it's like, I mean, it is like a thrill ride that you can't pay for. And it's like, it's 98% terror, and 2% tactic. Um, and so you just know that there has to be something after that. And I just knew, like, you don't bike as hard as you want to, or as hard as you can. You can bike always harder. So that's how I knew I couldn't give everything I had to the driving and the concentration and the energy that the pursuit was taking from me. I had to control my heart rate. I had to breathe. I had to stay in my zone, and just keep talking to myself. And I remember doing this. It's such a vivid memory of telling myself, you're going to have to run after this, and be prepared for that, and be ready. And many times before that in chases, I don't know that I had ever like kind of told myself that. This was the
Hmm.
first time I started like coaching myself, if that's a thing. I don't know, but it was so vivid in my head that this was something that was going to happen. And I don't know that would never have gone that way if it wasn't for triathlon.
Yeah. And the fact that it came up naturally, right? It wasn't as if that had been something you'd practiced.
Yeah,
It was just because of the training, because of the endurance mindset, you went into game mode, you went into race day mode,
hundred
and
percent.
or long training mode. Chris, I'd love to know a little bit more about your triathlon back. Like, how'd you get into it? Tell us that sort of that story.
So I'll give you kind of the pared down version. So um, I made a bad life choice, and I started dating my training officer. Um, Fell in love. We were together, and I got dumped for a helicopter pilot. And we had been working out together, and so fitness was kind of in my vein there, but it wasn't triathlon. It was like going to the gym and eating a weird diet, but it wasn't triathlon. In order to kind of find a way to preoccupy my mind, I took a waiter's job at a sports bar in the cities here. And I was setting up, and one day when I was setting up, the St. Croix half Ironman triathlon was playing on all the TVs.
Hmm.
And I saw it and I was like, you know what? I could do that. I could really do that. And then I could win her back and she would think I'm a better person. And so I signed up for a local triathlon that was up in Duluth. I did it like a month later. I went to the outlet mall and bought like a pair of like biking shorts and an Under Armour shirt. And I used the bicycle that she had left at my house, which was like a mongoose hybrid thing majig. I put barrel bars on it even. Like it was like it looked
Do you have a
so funny.
picture?
Yeah, I
I'd
was
love to
like
see that.
I was every newbie Rube that you've ever seen. And I did the race and I kind of forgot about her. And it became this like such an event and I remember feeling so embraced. First of all, I went and I think I was the only person who did the swim without a wetsuit.
Hmm.
And it was very intimidating. And so, it's an international distance race. Used to call them Olympic distance. And I remember telling myself in the swim, I was doing like the apple picking because I was like self-taught. I grew up playing hockey. I did not grow up swim, biking, and running. It was just kind of a side thing. I mean, I knew how to swim, but as all Minnesotans know how to swim, it's like, whatever. You can swim from the dock to the pontoon or whatever you do. But I remember I was like, pick the apple, put it in the basket. Pick the apple, put it in the basket. And I side stroked like the last half, but I did it. I didn't stop. And I remember being on the bike and I ran and I was like so happy. And it was such a, like this, like dump of endorphins that I had never felt before. And it just, instantly hooked, instantly hooked. And that kind of started the trail. And then eventually, you got to make the trail to Ironman. And that's how I got my first coach. I was teaching with the police department. So my coach said, hey, you would be pretty good at this. So I started leading a local bike group. And that kind of led to exploring some stuff with USA Triathlon. And then I got looped into volunteering for USAT back in the salad days when we had big regions and I was involved in governance. And then once you're in, they just it's like the mafia. You can't get out. They always keep bringing like, oh, you want to volunteer? Come on, bring it back. And that led to, the work with Team USA. And that has all kind of driven now towards what I do with the U.S. Paralympic Paratriathlon development program. So,
So speaking of training USA athletes, um, and going back and unpacking this endurance mindset, like as a coach, are you intentionally coaching mindset work? Is that part of how you work with your athletes?
100%. So I will give you an example from just last weekend. So um, I was working with, actually, it ended up being a son of an athlete I'd worked with a number of years ago. He hired me to coach him for an Ironman this year, but he was doing the Eau Claire Marathon this weekend. And, young kid, gifted runner, lots of good stuff in his background, right? We talked about being in control for the first half. And I said, you have all of the gifts, you have all the capability, but the things that are going to take you down are your inability. You're going to be you're chasing a rabbit. I said, you have to have a control of your body. You have to have an understanding of your body. You don't want to chase people you think you should hang with. You want to make sure that you're doing the plan that we create. And it was like, we talked about just being in that mode. He ended up going out a little fast. And so in our debrief earlier today, I talked about like the mindset of envisioning what you're doing. So being very mindful and present in the preparation of what you do before the race. And we do this a lot with Paralympic athletes. In our camps, we sit down and we have people walk themselves through an event or a race and just visualize and put yourself in different places and visualize a problem coming up and visualize yourself walking through it. So much as like you learn so much from actually failing and doing correction, we talk about putting yourself in a mindset of executing change or overcoming failure before it actually happens, so that when you get there, it's already second hat. You already know what to do, because there's so much that the head changes in the game. I really love to quote Mark Allen. I saw he was in a movie a long time ago called What It Takes. It was a documenting 4 Ironman athletes that were 2 men, 2 women that were competing in Kona, and it was kind of a year-long documentary. And Mark Allen said, when the professional athletes at Ironman Kona or Nice, wherever they're at, when they line up, if you tested them physiologically, they're all within like 1/100% of each other. They are all tip-top physical specimens. There are 2 things that allow someone to win or cause someone to lose. It's here and it's here.
Mm.
And if you and I use that a lot with athletes that are racing to win, not racing to complete. And we talk about, if you step up on the line and you look down on both sides of you as who you're lining up with, if you don't say to yourself, I can win today, I can beat them, I can beat them. If you don't say that to yourself, you're already conceding the win. You have to have that belief. You have to have that self-confidence, not arrogance, not overconfidence, but self-confidence that you can win, and then be able to have the control to follow the plan to allow you to win. And I think that is 100% the key that can be laid up with any athlete at any level, but especially as they get higher, they need to be able to do those things, because those are the small pieces that differentiate.
Certainly. I love what you said there, Kris, about following the plan so that you can win, right? And there's so many times, and I'm a victim of this as well. It's like I get on the bike and the bike that's twice as fast as me goes by, and then somebody else goes by, and you're just going to push a little bit more, and you're going to push a little bit more because you're tired of getting passed.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden you get to the run and your legs are gone, and you're like, wait a second. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have been pushing just to pick up another half mile an hour or a couple more watts, or, hammer a climb.
Yep.
And then it was interesting that you talked about sort of playing through scenarios of things going wrong. I was talking to a nutritionist yesterday about race day nutrition, and she was like, yeah, we talk about scenario A, B, C, D, and E. Like, if it's too hot, if it's too cold, if this happens, if you drop your water bottle. I'd love to hear some of your comments around, like, how do you prepare your athletes for kind of sort of the unexpected things that are going to happen during a race day?
Yeah, you have to go back to training. And
Mhm.
so this will, I think, again, will go back to law enforcement. So when I was on the SWAT team, we would train for a number of different scenarios, and we would do it over and over and over and over again. You would go through a door and you would make a left-hand turn and you would engage a suspect. You would go through a door again, go through a door again. You would do it over and over and over again. The purpose was so that when it really happened, you were just executing what you had done over and over again. So in training, especially in long distance with Ironman, I tell people to document the things that are really, that a lot of times are overlooked. What are you drinking? How much are you drinking? How often are you drinking? What are you eating? How often and how much? Right?
Mm.
That you have to track those things, and you have to track them in correlation with the temperature, the atmosphere, the topography that you're at, because each one is unique. Because if you train in a very, like in Minnesota here, it's very warm in the summertime, but then as athletes out there racing, let's say in Arizona or in Cozumel, what we'll do is we will actually have them training indoors under heat lamps or in high temperature, so that the sweat rates don't change with them biologically, which normally happens with the seasonal change. So you have to be able to hit those those pieces so that they're second nature. They're not kind of taking you sideways. So the number one thing that I always tell people is, when you come out of the swim, do not have a pre-engaged time that you think you should finish the swim in, because this is where a lot of failure happens, and it's so quick, and it's so consistent that everybody says, "Wait, with athletes, coach, how long do you think it's going to take me?" And I said, "I'm not going to tell you." I said, "You execute the plan, and the time will come up when it comes up. Execute the plan with pacing, and it will come. Because if they say, let's pull, I'm going to swim at 105, and they come out of the water, and let's say it's 108, for whatever reason, they see that it's 108, and they're like, 3 minutes, I'm 3 minutes off pace. I'm just going to pick it up a little bit in the bike. I'm going to go a little bit harder in the beginning, and I'm just going to make that up. And then they marginalize the drinking, or they miss some eating, or they make a wrong turn, or they get into a crash, or they do something that changes the plan. And those 3 minutes then turn into some sideways mechanism that they're bonking coming off the bike. And then, sure, they run on adrenaline for the first mile, but then it crashes. But it all started with like 3 minutes in their mind right out of the swim. And so it has to be, take that out, stay in the moment, and don't let time garner if you're winning or losing, especially unless you're a pro. And if you're a pro, there's a whole different thing there, right? But for the vast majority of athletes, it has to be stay in control, don't chase the squirrel, and just do what you're doing and stick with the plan. And that's so much control. You have to, like, they write it down, they put it on stickers, we put it everywhere, right? But it's me telling them. And if I'm having athletes, parents, or family watching them, I just tell them, stick to the plan. Pacing, hydration, nutrition. Stick to the plan. Just repeat, repeat, repeat. And if they've done it enough, they'll execute it correctly.
It's so hard though. Right. I
Yeah.
mean, the reality of it is, in fact, my last long distance race was Copenhagen. And I remember getting into the water. I had a good start, and I'm already thinking about my day and my times and my PR and this and that. And then I started worrying about things. And for some reason, I guess it must be my training. I'm like, you know what? The day is the day, and you've done your training. You've got a plan. Take the outcome out of the equation. Like, let's not start sweating the details at minute 30 of a 14-hour day. And lo and behold, once I got my brain to click off, I had a fantastic day from start to finish. Ironically, missed breaking an hour mark by, like, I don't know, 30 seconds. And I thought that I broke it, but I screwed up my Garmin in T1. And anyway, long story short, Kris, I'd love to know and teach the audience or tell the audience a little bit more about your sports services with Final K.
Yeah, so Final K just kind of came from, it's the third business that I have like had since law enforcement. My first one was a three-way partnership in a very small like triathlon training business, which then was purchased by United Health Group, and I ran a business inside United Health Group, which was like, that was crazy for me, right? I'm being a cop out of college, and now you're working for big health and getting like, working in big buildings and with all these different things. When that project was sunset, I had a lot of things that I knew I liked, and I knew that I wanted to take forward, and it was my opportunity to do that. The name actually came from my wife and I watching the Tour de France. And it's not K for Kris, which is, I spell my name like, Kris with a K, spelt the girl's way, is what I was always told in junior high. But it stands for the final kilometer, which is in bike racing, the Flemme Rouge. And so that's our logo. So I knew I wanted to take a lot of things that I had done in coaching, in developing other coaches, and in services, and I didn't have a great name for it. So I wanted to kind of encapsulate, because I have done race directing, I have owned races, and I wanted to be able to own races. I do some work with other companies for like activations. I do consulting. I do race announcing for Lifetime Fitness events. There's a lot of side hustle going on, Greg. Here, there's a lot of side hustle, but Final K was this way for me to make sure that I was growing other coaches as well. So there's a number of coaches that I work with and that I mentor, and I wanted to be able to give them everything they needed to do the job well, and take away the things that always bring you down: collecting money, how do you bill, and how do you advertise for yourself. I wanted to do all that for them so they could be great coaches. And that was kind of like what I wanted to move forward with. I also went without a brick and mortar, which, this is 2014. And I mean, brick and mortars, I still am super jealous of like guys that have like places, got a bike shop in there. They can go get coffee, whatever they want, and they got their own, they got a million bike spinners there, and they got, all the stuff. We were not brick and mortar. We were just in the ether, but it allowed us to refine some of the services that we were doing with athletes that didn't live here. So I had an athlete that lived in Moscow. I had an athlete that lived in Shanghai. And so you had to be able to find out ways to communicate. You had to find ways to do analysis and to be able to have interactive feedback with them, not being side by side. So I kind of started doing that, and luckily that's when video conferencing was there. It was just started to become a thing, and then COVID happened, and thank goodness we didn't have a brick and mortar, because I saw so many of my friends go under at that point in time. We were able to kind of stay afloat because we're kind of like a self-modulating business platform, but it is designed to allow there to be no kind of pressure. There's not a
Mm.
pressure to sell, or having so many athletes, and to keep to make your rent here, or to pay your mortgage there, or whatever it might be. So it has always meant to be a platform to allow a coach to coach, and that's really what I want it to be. So it can, it's kind of very self buoyant, and is there opportunities that can be had to that I've missed on to make money? Probably. We don't do sponsorship. In the podcast that I do, it's like there's no sponsors. It's just me and my buddy talking. So I think it's maybe not like the sharpest business model as far as money making, but it really has allowed me to be able to be a good coach, and to grow the
Sure.
craft, and to do the thing that I have always wanted to do. And that makes me happy. And I figure if I'm happy, I'm a better product servant for
100
people.
percent. Kris, it's funny how a lot of us entrepreneurs sort of become really good at something, and then other people ask us to do it. And next thing you know, we've got employees and back office and tools and all these things that we don't love doing. So there's like you're fulfilling that back office pain point for these coaches. Um, where else do you see them struggling? Like, there's coaches that listen to our show. They could have a small team with them. They could have a small client base or a big client base. But as it starts turning into a business, what's the first couple things that they struggle with?
I think defining what their purpose is. You have to
Mhm.
know why you want to coach before you can be a real good coach. And when I'm working with USAT Education at coaching clinics, one of the things I really kind of encourage coaches to do is to decide, are you a coach or are you an athlete? Because many try and balance those two worlds, and really it's pretty impossible. You're either going to be a great athlete, or you're going to be a great coach. And I think that was the tipping point for me, is when I realized that I was getting more out of the things I was doing in coaching than I ever did in my accomplishments as an athlete. And so I said that's the number one thing, is why you're here. And so they need to understand why they're coaching and what they're doing it for. If you're doing it for the money, wrong reason. Because a coach by the name of Bobby McGee, he's a South African run coach, once told me, he's like, you pay for the first 5 to 7 years to be a coach. And after
Mm.
that, if you break even, you're doing good. And it's true, because there's a lot of us out there. AI is knocking at the door, and every day we have to kind of validate why we are better than AI. And a lot of it is because we're intuitive, and we also are personable, and we see things inside people that AI probably, hopefully, never sees. But that also comes with limitations. Like, if you think about what makes a really good teacher, it is a student to teacher ratio. If you have a teacher teaching a classroom of 40 kids, somebody's marginalized. You're not seeing everybody. You're kind of preaching to the mass, and you at some point in time it gets just generalized. You get 20 kids in a room, and everybody's learning, and the teacher knows everybody
Mhm.
and knows all their little needs. Same thing with coaches. So you have to so this comes back to, why are you coaching? If you're coaching to make money, there are ways, and you probably want to go a teams route, and it's not going to be one-on-one, and it's a different model. But for the things that I try and have people do, it's that personalized model. It's that Rolls Royce of coaching, versus just going out and getting a free online program that somebody's put out there. Because that and you have to understand that in order to be a really good coach. And once you have gotten to that point, and realize what some of the limitations and boundaries are for success, then I think you can really start to hone in on what your niche is. Are you good with just female athletes? Or I know of coaches that specialize in, older female athletes, and that is their core group. Or younger groups, like, let's say, college athletes. They're out there. And then work with that. Don't try and be everything to everybody, because
Good
that's
advice.
that's also another squirrel that you don't want to go chase. Because as soon as you establish and you put your marker in the sand, and somebody comes up with a little bit flashier marker, your first instinct is like, what are they doing? And you want to go chase and be better than them. But then that takes you off of your game, and that takes you off of why you're doing well in your craft and in your lane. And that's a hard thing to stick to. And so I try and tell people, just like, make sure you figure out where your lane is, and then think about the boundaries that you want to try and hit as you go. Like, you're building a business project, right? Like, so my wife is building out a big business project, and I said, she starts off and establishes, like, what are the roles, who's going to be doing what are the benchmarks that we want to hit in the first month, the first 3 months, 6 months, and then let's focus on those. Just like in a marathon, you don't start off the marathon thinking, I got 26 miles to run right off the bike. No, you think about 1 mile,
Right.
execute 1 mile, and then the next mile and the next mile. And so if you stay focused on what you're doing, that allows you to be the best coach you can be. And I think that's what I try and teach. Now, I would love if that made somebody millionaires, but 9 times out of 10, it doesn't. And I think coaching is one of those practices and crafts that you do that makes your soul full, and it
Mhm.
makes you feel very fulfilled. And I think that's the ultimate reward, or at least it is for me. That if Greg, if you found a way to make $1 billion in this job, please tell me offline, because don't share it with everybody, but just tell
That's right.
me, and I would love to be able to do that.
That's well said. Kris, I'm going to shift gears on to you. Last time we chatted, we talked about your hockey locker passion business. I'd love to educate the audience of what you're building so they can come find you.
This is another thing where it's like, yeah, so I grew up playing hockey. My family played hockey. My father played collegiately. My grandfather played professionally. I played in high school here in Minnesota, and it is like football in Texas. Um, we have 3 kids playing hockey plus me. In our basement, it looked like a yard sale, right? I mean, there was gear all over, and it smells, and it's just the here. And my wife doesn't like that. She likes a tidy house. She doesn't like to live in a yard sale that stinks. So she's like, fix this. And my grandfather taught shop in high school, and he built his own house, and that's the house that we own today. My uncle, my dad's older brother, was a custom cabinet maker in Manhattan for 25 years, and I worked in his shop right out of college for a little while. And so, like, woodworking and building things has always been kind of in my bones, and I've known how to do it. And so when my wife said fix the basement, I went to a local, like, shop, and I saw these lockers that looked really nice. They looked like a sports locker. And I asked the guy how much, and he's like, "Well, we don't sell those. We're not selling those." Like, okay. So I took a bunch of pictures, came home, reverse engineered it, built it. It worked awesome. And my wife started bragging about it on Facebook and started, selling them to her friends, or her friends like, "Hey, would you build them for us?" And so it kind of became this, like, okay, I'll do it for you. And then, okay, I'll do it for you. And then at some point in time, I figured, well, I can't take so many Venmo payments, and the government's going to come after me. So I better start making this a legitimate thing. So now it is an item underneath Final K, and it's a taxable item, but it is a storage mechanism and a display mechanism that is very similar to what professional hockey players have. And I did it for hockey because there's so many of us here, and ultimately because my kids play hockey, and that's what I built it for. But it is therapy, like woodworking, and the design of this has been therapy. And just like how biking is just so cleansing of your mind, going out in my garage and cutting wood and sanding and putting polyurethane on and listening to, like, Iron Maiden, and drinking copious amounts of coffee, and just having the neighbors drive by go, what is he doing now? It just soothes my soul. And so it has been this thing that has just really allowed me to kind of have a nice kind of side, like, just a side project. And It's not the pinnacle. Coaching is the keystone. Everything else is just support for that, and
Mm.
that's what it's been. But it's a super fun thing because I've had a handful of professional athletes that have found them and have come over and picked them up and bought them from me. So I nerd out when a guy like Alex Goligoski or Joe Dietzick will come over, and it's like I grew up watching those guys. Like these are like the guys that I like wear their jerseys and go to hockey games, and like now they're like they're chumming with me, and it's kind of it's a fun little side project that has given me a way to like stay active, but also I have been building them and donating them to different things. I donated one this last weekend to a hockey tournament that benefits fallen police officers here
Mm.
in Minnesota, and so an officer whose family we were raising money for, who died, a St. Paul officer. Um, I donated a locker there, and so it's a way of giving back when I don't have a lot of money to give back. I can take things that I've created that will somebody else will appreciate and that will help out.
That's awesome. And there's something special about like making something with your hands, right? And then
Oh
there's a
yeah.
finished product and you can touch it and if it's made well, it's gonna live for a long, long time. And there's happiness in somebody's home because it's organized. And I, for one, love an organized house. So I thank you for that. I'm not a hockey family, but thank
It's
you
a
for that.
feel though. I mean, the first thing people do is they come up and they feel it. And
Mm.
and it is. It's like, I mean, writing a triathlon program is, at some point it's kind of plug and play. I do enjoy Parrot because it's like it is very you have to really create everything uniquely for the individual athlete based upon what category they're in or restrictions they have. But you can't really put your hands on a Training Peaks plan. I can't go up and like touch it. I can touch my computer, but then, it's not the same thing. But when you build something like this, you put your hands on it and you feel it and you have an interaction and you see people have a physical interaction. The first thing they want to do is they want to touch it. And there's some satisfaction with that. It's like I wrote a book a while back, and like when people pick that book up, they feel it. And there's
Mhm.
like it's something that you have that is physical and that's just can't be replicated many times.
Chris, audience member wants to get in touch with you. What's the best way to get in touch with you?
You can probably get in touch with me through my website, finalk.com, finalk.com. Pretty easy. And just go through the info or just Chris at Final K.
Fantastic. It's been great having you on the show. I could talk with you for hours about side hustle ideas and coaching and athletics and swap stories about great rides. And you've been an amazing guest. So thank you for your time. Audience members, if you got some value out of the show, please subscribe. Please follow Chris. Find him on social media. If you enjoyed this episode, send it out to your friends and colleagues, and let's share this message that we captured today. Again, Chris, it's been fantastic having you on the show.
Thanks, Greg. I really appreciate the time. Love talking with you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Chief Endurance Officer podcast. To hear more inspiring stories and strategies around the endurance mindset, be sure to subscribe below or visit us at chiefenduranceofficer.com. Until next time, keep pushing those limits